Today I'm feeling really festive with my turtleneck and my stockings all hung up. Being festive means that it's the end of the year and I'm finally here to do the best and worst books that I read in 2018. So I'm going to follow the format that I did last year in 2017 and just talk about some really awesome and exciting things that happened to me this year, and then I'm going to talk about some statistics of all the books I've read that Goodreads has compiled for me, and then I'm going to talk about the best books, honorable mentions, and then the worst books. Okay, so as most of you know, in 2017 I started working at Disneyland, which I totally love and I miss very much. But because I was working a lot at Disneyland, I wasn't blogging and reading as much as I had hoped to be at the beginning of 2018 because the job is really exhausting, and if you've ever worked at Disneyland, you know that this is true, that it's exhausting on an emotional and a physical level, especially if you work at the kind of ride that I was working at. So at the beginning of 2018, I worked a lot of the World of Color shifts at California Adventure. That's the park that I was assigned to when I first started working at Disneyland. And I loved World of Color shifts. Not initially because I was really cold and freezing all the time and I was like, I don't like shows, like they're dumb, but I actually grew to really love it, and now when I think back at my time at Disney, they're the shifts that I miss working the most, not the rides that I worked. It was actually World of Color itself, and especially the holiday season one. Oh, I loved that. If you keep up with Disney Parks stuff, you'll know that World of Color at California Adventure has been closed since January. Initially, it was just closed for refurbishment and so that they could work on California Screamin', which I'll talk about in a second. And then it was supposed to reopen in June with the Incredicoaster, but it didn't because, as I heard through the rumor mill, they had flooded the control room for World of Color. And I was reading an article the other day at Disney Blog website thing, and they kind of hinted at that, but that's like what I've heard from managers and stuff. They had to redo and like fix a bunch of stuff, I guess, and they have to have scuba divers go in and like fix all the control room. I don't know, it's just a mess, I guess. So I wasn't able to see World of Color again before I left Disney, which I was kind of disappointed about. I wasn't even able to work it again before I left again, something I'm kind of disappointed about. So I'm hoping that next year when I come home from London, it'll be open and ready to go and I'll be able to watch my favorite holiday Season of Light show. I listen to the playlist all the time during the holidays this year because I just love it so much, and it just brings back so many good memories of guests interacting and doing guest control too, which was like one of my favorite parts of working at Disney, so I really miss that. But then eventually when you're working at Disney, they'll put you at a show, usually first, this is for California Adventure at least, and then they'll kind of move you up to your attraction. So I got assigned to Toy Story Midway Mania and King Triton's Carousel of the Sea. I hated the carousel, it was the worst. I was actually kind of disappointed in 2017 when I found out I was going to be working at Mania because I really wanted to work over on Disneyland side, and I wanted to work Jungle Cruise or Haunted Mansion or Pirates, like any of those, but actually it all ended up working out for the best because Midway Mania is like one of the best rides to work. It's really high energy, there's a lot going on, there's a lot to do, it keeps your mind occupied, whereas I've heard at Mansion and Pirates it's both just kind of really dull, like get in, get out, get in, get out, with not very much like safety restraint check, whereas at Mania there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things going on. So I'm so blessed to have gotten to work at Mania. I freaking love that ride. I hated the costume. It was like this awful striped shirt with a plaid vest, a polka dot bow tie, and then culottes, and the culottes were just ugh, like I hated them. I feel like I should just do a video on like my time at Disney. I have so many stories. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because when I was working at Mania and Carousel in January, California Screamin', the big roller coaster at the back of California Adventure, was closing down so that they could do refurbishments because Paradise Pier was going to become Pixar Pier, which was really exciting, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so great to be a part of this cool experience. But from January to June, we put up with a lot of hell from guests and just people in general because they were so upset that like, why is everything closed? It was like, man, there are only 2 rides closed here. You need to calm down. Which, side note, if you ever go to Disneyland, please be nice to the cast members. They're working so much harder than you think they are. And yes, some people can be dicks, but you're being a dick as well. So just be nice, like we're going through a lot. Once the roller coaster shut down, my boyfriend, who was not my boyfriend at the time, I had no idea he even really existed, came back over to Mania, which is where I was working, and we had this first shift together. We met and like kind of the rest is history because we were talking and we had this closing shift together and it was really wonderful, and I don't know, it was so great. Like we really hit it off, and I had no idea that he liked me, and I was just kind of like, oh, this guy's so cool. Like I remember telling my family about him, like, oh, like when I signed them into the parks a couple weeks later, I was like, oh, that's that nice guy I've been talking about. His name's Michael, and like, da-da-da, whatever. And then a couple weeks later, he asked me out, and I said yes, obviously, and we went to Disney for our date, and I had my first churro ever at Disneyland. I had never had a Disney churro before that he got for me. So it was all very wonderful and lovely, and we had fast passes to go on Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters that we totally ignored and forgot about because we were sitting on Main Street until midnight just talking, and it was like one of the best days ever, honestly. Like, I had a really good time, and I was like, man, I'm really falling for this guy. So anyway, we started working at Mania together a lot. We finally became official boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. And we started taking all these trips together. We went to Vegas twice together. We went to Pismo Beach, which is up in kind of Central California, if you've ever been here. It's a beautiful place. I love Pismo. We went there for my birthday. We went to Denver because I was a bridesmaid for my best friend's wedding. We went to Disney World together with my family. We stayed there for a week. It was just kind of this spur of the moment thing that happened, and whenever we look back on it, we're always like, oh my god, we went to Disney World. Like, who does that? We'd only been together, I think, like 3 or 4 months officially. That was just kind of crazy, and we had a total blast at Disney World. We always talk about wanting to go back because he can get us in for free, and at the time I could get my parents in for free when I worked at Disney, so it was wonderful. I would love, love, love to go back. He and I talk about going to Disney Paris all the time because now I'm here in London and whatever. But yeah, we took a lot of trips together. I did a lot of traveling, and I really, really loved it. During my time at Disney too, I also spent a lot of time at Disneyland with Allie. Hi, Allie. We just like would go into the parks, ride a couple rides, and then I would have to go off to work, and she and her dad would go home. And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. Like, once I was working there a lot more, I just didn't really want to go into the parks as much as a guest just because I was like, ugh, everything's so crowded, and I don't know, I think I was just a little like on my high horse probably, but I always enjoyed spending time with her. We would always do like kind of the more chill rides. We had a really good time. I really miss actually spending time with her at Disneyland. And we would also try all the new food too, because when Pixar Pier opened, there was all this new food coming out, and I could use my cast discount on everything, so it was like, ooh, let's try this ice cream that looks like pee-pee, and you know, all this other stuff, and the cookies and everything. So yeah, it was great. And going along with all that being said about Pixar Pier opening and all that, my boyfriend and I actually got to go to the cast preview for the Pixar Pier opening, so we got to ride Incredicoaster, Midway Mania, Pal Around. So we got to ride Incredicoaster together. That was not the first time he had been on it because he was doing some training before that, and he got to ride it alone before he went with me, which I was so jealous about. But we got to ride it together for the first time, which was really awesome. So this was like 3 or 4 days before it opened for the public, for the general public, and it was just amazing. Like, there was nobody in that part of the park, and we could just walk on all the rides, and it was so wonderful. And now it's just really busy over there, I hear, so yeah. Again, I need to get down off my high horse about this, but it was just really, really cool. There were also a couple other like cast goodbyes that we went to. So we went to the cast closing, I don't know what they called it, for Bugs Land, so we got to ride all the Bugs Land rides, and then we got to go to the like kind of seasonal cast preview for Monsters After Dark, which is what they do over at Guardians of the Galaxy, which used to be Tower of Terror. So that was super awesome. We got to do that too. Okay, so that's all I'm really gonna say about Disney. Just the fact that I left in September, and I miss it every single day. I miss all my cast members. I don't miss working some of the rides because they totally sucked. Like, I don't miss King Triton, I don't miss Golden Zephyr, and I don't miss Goofy's. I hated those rides. Like, if you ever go on those rides, just be nice to the cast members because it sucks over there. Like, it just does. But if you go on Mania, you know, I don't know, if any cast members are like me, they really love their jobs. In general, be nice to cast members. They're just doing their best. We're trying to hit counts and, you know, please everybody, so. Also, the funny thing too is if you're ever mean to a cast member, we're not gonna get upset about it. We're just gonna make fun of you backstage, so just keep that in mind, like you'll be that guy. Okay, went to 2 concerts this year, which was super fun. I first went to Matt Kearney, and Andrew Bell opened for him, and I love both of them so, so much. So I went with my best friend Megan. She's always kind of my concert buddy. We went to that in March, and that was super fun. And then in May, I went to a George Ezra concert again with Megan. Oh, so much fun. I love George Ezra so much. According to my Spotify Wrapped 2018 whatever thing, he was the artist that I listened to the most this year, which is not surprising because I love his music. I love him so much. As I mentioned earlier, I left Disney in September and moved to London in September. September was a very like up and down month for me because it was really exciting that I was coming here to London, but also really sad that I was leaving everyone and my family and my boyfriend obviously all behind. So it was just kind of tough, but I'm obviously been in London ever since, and I've been enjoying it so much. I love London. I explore all the time, not as much as I used to when I first moved here, because now, like, with finals and everything, it's just kind of, it's a little bit harder to do it. My boyfriend came and visited last week and the week before, so we went and did a lot of like the touristy things. We went to Christmas fairs and stuff like that, so it was so much fun. And next week, actually in like 3 days, my sister's coming to visit, so we're gonna do it all over again. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm very excited. I love just going around and doing like the typical touristy things. It's just really fun. Let's talk books. I've been talking about myself way too much. Thank you if you've made it this far. So let's talk about a couple statistics and things before we jump into the best and worst books. According to Goodreads, I read 72 books this year, which is probably like the lowest amount I've ever read, but I took a really long break from blogging and YouTubing and all that stuff at the beginning of the year, just because I was so overwhelmed with work and it was really exhausting, as I've mentioned a couple times before. And then I was like all wrapped up in like falling in love and all that stuff. So I didn't read as much as I wanted to, but I did read 72 books, and according to Goodreads, I read 20,893 pages. The shortest book I read was 32 pages, and that was Bitch Planet. Alicia, my best friend from college, actually gave this to me as a birthday present. Thank you, Alicia. And I breezed through it really quickly. I think I gave it like 3 or 4 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure. The longest book I read was Rich People Problems by Kevin Kwan. This is the last book in the Crazy Rich Asians series, and this book is 541 pages. I was actually really surprised when I saw that, because I didn't think it was the longest book I had read this year. I thought there were other stuff that was like way longer, but I guess not. Now let's talk about the best books that I read in 2018. First two kind of go together, and that's An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night. I really liked both of these. I really like this series. I also read A Reaper at the Gates of Dawn this year, actually on the plane ride to Florida, but I didn't like that one as much as the first two. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe I was distracted with flying and all that, so I was just kind of like bleh, like not in the right headspace. But yeah, I really like both of these. I both gave them 5 out of 5 stars. I think that can be pretty much said for all of these books that were the best of 2018. Next book I think is the best book that I read this year, and that was I Stopped Somewhere by T.E. Carter. Oh my god, I loved this book. Like, I can't even begin to explain how much I love this book. It made me totally cry and fall apart at the end. It's really emotional and really hard to read. I didn't expect to like it. Honestly, when I picked it up, I was kind of like, how good could this be? And then I read it and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. And I just want everyone to read this book. I actually got it in an ARC package from Macmillan earlier in the year. Macmillan? Fierce Reads? I don't remember. I was kind of like intrigued by the cover, which as you can tell is very beautiful. So I read that and I totally loved it. And then I also got another ARC package for T.E. Carter. I also got another ARC of hers this year. It's Back Home Waiting for Me in California, and I don't know, I'm just so excited to pick it up. This next one was also a book that I read on a plane ride from LA to Denver when I was going to be a bridesmaid, and that's Everything Everything. This year my boyfriend and I had talked about how he didn't like the movie Everything Everything. He said it was like the worst movie he watched in 2017, and I actually really liked it. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna read the book just to spite him. And it was really easy to go through. I think it's like maybe like 200 pages or something, but I just flew through it and I was like, oh my god, I love this. I also really like the drawings in it too, which I think Nicola Yoon's husband drew, so those were really cool. The next book that I really liked in 2018 was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I read Genuine Fraud last year and I really enjoyed it, so everyone had been really talking about We Were Liars and they're like, oh my god, it's so good, and I was like, how good can it be? So I read it and I really enjoyed it. It was just fantastic. She always keeps me on the edge of my seat and I'm like, oh, I want to know what's happening. I did like Genuine Fraud more than We Were Liars, but both were super fantastic. This is something that I reread this year, and it was To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I don't remember liking it as much as I did the first time I read it, but the second time I read it, I was like, oh my god, I love this so much. And obviously I reread it because I wanted to watch the Netflix movie, and my boyfriend and I watched that together and we really liked it. It was just really sweet. This next series that I read, I really loved, and that was the Crazy Rich Asians series. If you've been listening closely, you remember that this was the longest book that I read this year. Actually, another book that I read on a plane ride, because I read it from LA to London, which is such a long flight, oh my god. And I just really enjoyed the series. Like, again, I reread the first one because I read that a long time ago. I had an ARC of it. before it came out. I reread the series because I loved the movie. It was so good. I went and saw it twice actually. I don't know, I really enjoy his writing, and I was listening to the audiobooks and I really liked that as well. I don't know, I really like this series. It's really funny, really kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening sort of thing, and it's like watching a reality TV show. Another book that I read this year that I really loved and was something I just kind of picked up spontaneously because it's been on my bookshelf back at home for a really long time, so I was like, I might as well just get it from the library here in London, and that's The Wrath and the Dawn. I loved this book. I think I read it in less than 24 hours because I was just like I can't stop reading, and I was reading it on the tube, and oh my gosh, I just loved it so much. And then I immediately read the sequel, and I didn't like that one as much, but it was also really good. Okay, this next one that I read and really enjoyed was Calvin and Hobbes. Again, I've talked about this a couple times. My boyfriend let me borrow this when I came to London, and I really enjoyed reading this. It just reminds me of him so much, and yeah, I gave him actually the collector's like edition of all of the Calvin and Hobbes comics, that beautiful bound series. I gave him that for Christmas and he really liked it. I told him actually I'm gonna come to his house and just sit there and like read the rest of the comics because I really enjoy these, so this was fantastic. And thank you, Michael, for letting me borrow this. This next one I've also had on my bookshelf back at home for a while, and I picked up from the library here, and that was The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I really liked this. I didn't like the sequel as much, and I was trying to get through it, but I just couldn't manage to get through it this year, so I think I'm gonna try again next year, maybe by listening to the audiobook. I think that might help a little bit. I loved The Bone Season. I was hooked from the very start. I really liked the world and the characters. They were all just really interesting. As I've said before, the main character and I have the same name, so that's always kind of like a fun thing. Can't wait to finish the series finally, but I know there's still a lot more books coming out. I think there's gonna be a total of 8 is what she said when I met her in Denver a couple years ago. This next one I had an arc of this year, and I don't know why I didn't read it, but as soon as the book came out and I knew I was gonna meet him, which was something really exciting that happened in 2018 as well, I flew through Bridge of Clay. I actually listened to the audiobook, and I would really like to go back and actually like read it. Because I think it will come across a little bit differently. Marcus Zuzak is actually the one that narrated the audiobook, and he did a fantastic job of it. He signed my copy, which was really cool, and I don't know, I loved this book. Of course, Marcus Zuzak like took me away again to this story that like, this is one of those stories where you think like, oh, I'm not really gonna care about it, but then as you keep reading it more and more, you're just like, wow, this is so beautiful, and he writes so beautifully. All I can say is Bridge of Clay, if I hadn't read I Stop Somewhere this year, I think this would have been my favorite book of the year. Okay, this next one was actually a really fun book that I read this year, and that was When Dimple Met Rishi. I really loved that book. I've met Sandhya Menon. I'm probably saying that wrong. I actually met Sandhya Menon at LA Times Festival of Books this year, which was really cool. Yeah, she was really great to talk to. I really enjoyed When Dimple Met Rishi. I actually listened to the audiobook because I was on this audiobook kick this year, which was really fun. And the narrators did a really fantastic job of bringing life into the story, but it was just a fun story anyway, so I think if I had actually like read it, like flipping through the pages, then I would have enjoyed it just as much that way too. I think this was my favorite romantic comedy of the year, and that's Emergency Contact. God, I loved this book. It was so funny, but also heartbreaking, and again, really fantastic job done by the narrators of the audiobook. They just, they did so well. I loved it. I loved it. Okay, so I'm just gonna fly through these honorable mentions. They weren't quite in my top, but they were just really good books that I read this year. First one being Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda. Again, something I wanted to read because the movie was coming out and me and my boyfriend went and saw it together. It was really great. I really liked the movie, really liked the book. I think they complement each other really well. Also read Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, one of my favorite authors like ever. And Long Way Down was really good. I think I, as always, don't enjoy poetry books as much as I'm meant to, just because I don't like poetry, but I really enjoyed this. I read another Joan Didion book this year. I seem to read about one a year because I don't know, I feel like I need space between her writing. And that was Slouching Towards Bethlehem. Again, fantastic. Wonderful. She's a fantastic writer. Another one that I listened to the audiobook and I'm obsessed with the TV show is Victoria. Oh my God, I loved this so much because it resembled the TV show so much, and I got my mom to read it and she actually gave it to her friend as a gift for Christmas. So Yeah, I'm spreading the word. Another one I really liked was Lola and the Boy Next Door. I had read Anna and the French Kiss again this year, but I had originally read it back in high school, and I just wanted to finish the series, which I did, and I think Lola was my favorite of the whole series. Ooh, this one comes out in 2019, but I'm gonna mention it anyway. I read it right after Y'all West this year, and that's You'd Be Mine. I really, really liked this book. I like any book that kind of has like a center around music, so it's coming out in January, and you should all definitely pick it up. Another one I got at Y'all West was OMG Check Please, which is, I guess they renamed it to just Check Please. So I'd read the online comic on Tumblr like a while ago, and then when I found out they were putting it into like a book format, I was like, that's so cool, because that's like way easier to read. Yeah, I really enjoyed the book, obviously, because I'd already kind of read it before. And then I finally read a Victoria Schwab book this year, or V.E. Schwab, whatever you want to call her, and that was A Darker Shade of Magic. Really liked this. I don't know why I didn't pick up the rest of the series. I think it was because during that time I was kind of like getting a lot of stuff together for my visa for London, but I really, really liked this. And I want to read the rest of the series, and I want to read more of her work in 2019, which I always say that about authors, and then I feel like I never do, but I really want to this year. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the worst books I read in 2018. I think there's only 6 of these, so we'll fly through this kind of quickly. The first one being Animus. A publisher just kind of randomly sent this to me. I didn't ask for it or anything, so when it arrived I was kind of like, it's a graphic novel, I can speed through it fairly quickly, and I read it and I don't know, it was weird. I just didn't like it, so ugh. This next one is On the Edge, and I kind of wanted this to be like the Perfect Chemistry series by Simone Alcalis, but it wasn't, and it was cheesy and weird, and I didn't like it, so yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Oh my gosh, this next one, How Not to Date a Prince. Again, as I've mentioned before, I read this on the London Underground because I had nothing else really downloaded on my phone that I hadn't read yet, and I was just kind of clicking through it when I was stuck on the tube and I had no service, and I was like, oh my god, this is so weird and I don't like it. It's like it was trying to be a Nora Roberts book, but it just didn't work at all. This next one I had to do required reading for class, and that was The Political History of Smack and Crack. This is a play. I hated it. It was awful. We totally destroyed this play in class, and I just didn't like it. Okay, another one that I really didn't like this year was My Lady Jane. You know, I wanted to like this, but I didn't, and I'm not gonna read My Plain Jane because I hear that one's not even as good as My Lady Jane, and I just didn't even like that one, so I'm not gonna waste my time. Okay, and then this last one is a book that I've been talking about almost the entire last half of this year because I really don't like it, and that was Start With Why, and I had to read this for class and I really didn't like it, and I'm sorry, professor, even you said yourself that it was a cheap piece of literature, and none of us by the end of the year liked it, so I'm just so glad that I finished this. I'm just so done with it. Ugh. Okay, so those were some of the best and worst of this year, and then also like other exciting things that happened to me. I hope this video wasn't too long. I have like a really bad feeling it's gonna end up being like a half an hour or something, but I'll try to edit it down. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. All I can say is thank you all for such a wonderful year. I'm really looking forward to 2019 because by the end of next year, I should be graduating with my master's degree, which is kind of scary and very exciting at the same time. And I'll be moving back home to LA in September. So yeah, just a lot of changes are coming up in 2019, but that's a long way to go. For the moment, I'm just very happy to be here in London, and I can't wait to see my sister when she arrives in a few days, so that'll be really good. And a lot of exciting things are coming up in 2019 that I can't talk about yet, but yeah, I'm just very excited and in good spirits. I hope you all have a wonderful festive season, as they say here. I hope that you guys have a wonderful new year and you stay safe and happy and healthy and all that good stuff. And yeah, I just can't wait to start making more videos next year and talking to you guys more. So enjoy yourselves. I can't wait to hear what you think of my best and worst, and I'd love to see a video or for you to share your best and worst with me. So just let me know in the comments below. As always, you can find me in all the links below as well, but I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye! I'm doing, oh god, what's the word? I've almost already have forgotten it. Oh, Pixar, okay, that's a long train. For that wedding that I was a part of, ew, that sounds weird. Genuine fraud, duh. Okay.